Before we move into the story of Beowulf itself, it is important to understand where this epic came from, who created it, and why it matters in the history of English literature. Beowulf is considered the earliest epic poem in the English language. It comes from a very old world, a time of warriors, monsters, and stories passed down by word of mouth. People believed that fate controlled their lives, and that a person's worth was proven through brave actions. At its core, Beowulf is about heroism, standing up to fear, facing the unknown, and leaving behind a name that people will remember. Even though it's ancient, the questions it raises are still very human. How do we face danger? And what kind of legacy do we leave behind? Beowulf is the oldest surviving epic poem written in English, and it serves as a bridge between oral storytelling traditions and written literature. It was written by an anonymous poet, likely a Christian monk or scribe, who recorded a much older pagan oral tradition. This explains why the poem contains both pagan heroic values such as fate, revenge, and glory, and Christian ideas such as God's judgment and moral reflection. So while the story is pagan in origin, the written version is Christian in perspective. Beowulf comes from the Old English, or Anglo-Saxon period around 700 to 1000 AD. This was a time when stories were not read silently from books. They were spoken aloud, sung and shared in great halls filled with warriors. Poetry lived in the voice of the storyteller, and every word was meant to be heard. It was also a warrior culture where loyalty to one's king was everything, and the honor was proven through courage in battle. This is a world where Beowulf was born. The manuscript that contains Beowulf is called the Noel Codex. Today it is kept in the British Library in London. Scholars believe it was written around the year 1000 AD, making it over 1000 years old. Unfortunately, the manuscript was damaged in a fire in 1731, which is why some lines of the poem are missing or difficult to read. Although Beowulf is an English poem, it is not set in England. The story takes place in Scandinavia, specifically Denmark, where King Hrothgar rules and Grendel attacks Heorot. Southern Sweden, the homeland of Beowulf and the Geats. The events are believed to occur around the 6th century, long before the poem was written down. In the world of Beowulf, a man was judged by what he did, not by what he said. This was a warrior society where bravery was expected and heroism meant facing danger without fear. Loyalty to one's king was sacred. A good warrior stood by his lord in life and even in death. Honor mattered deeply, because a man's reputation was his legacy. What people said about you after you were gone was just as important as how you lived. And above all, there was fate, what the Anglo-Saxons called weird. No one could escape it. A warrior could only choose how bravely he faced it. In this world, a man's worth lived on through his actions and through the stories told about him long after he was gone. Long before Beowulf was ever written down, it lived only in people's voices. The story was passed from one generation to the next by bards or scopes who memorized long sections and performed them aloud. These performances were meant to be heard, often in crowded halls and listeners gathered around. To help both the storyteller remember the lines and the audience follow the story, the poem relied on special techniques. You hear repeated sounds or alliteration. You find kennings, which are poetic phrases that describe something in a more imaginative way. And you often hear long formal speeches spoken by heroes and kings. These techniques turn the story into something memorable, easy to listen to, easier to remember, and powerful enough to survive long before it ever reached the page. The name Beowulf itself is poetic. It comes from two old words, bee and wolf. When you put them together, they point to one animal, the bear. In Anglo-Saxon poetry, writers often use indirect, imaginative descriptions instead of naming something directly. So instead of saying bear, they described it as a bee-wolf, an animal that hunts bees for honey. This name suggests strength, courage, and fearsome presence, exactly the kind of hero Beowulf is meant to be. At the heart of the story is Beowulf, the hero, defined by strength, courage, and the desire to leave behind a lasting name. His first great enemy is Grendel, a monster who attacks King Hrothgar's hall, enraged by human joy and community. When Grendel falls, his mother rises in his place. Grendel's mother is driven by vengeance, reminding us that violence in this world always has consequences. Many years later, Beowulf faces his final and most dangerous opponent, the dragon, a creature that represents death, destruction, and the price of past actions. This battle tests Beowulf not as a young warrior, but as an aging king. King Hrothgar, the wise ruler of the Danes, stands as a symbol of generosity and leadership, but also of human limitation. And in Beowulf's final moments, Wiglaf proves himself. While others flee, he remains loyal, showing that true heroism sometimes means standing firm when everyone else turns away. These characters together tell a story not just about monsters, but about courage, loyalty, and how a life is judged in the end. Why Beowulf is still important. Beowulf is important because it marks the beginning of English literature. It is the first great heroic poem in English, a record of early Germanic culture, and a foundation for themes of heroism, conflict, and morality. With this background in mind, we can now move into the story itself, a tale of heroism, monsters, and the struggle between order and chaos. This is the story of Beowulf. King Hrothgar, the ruler of the Danes, builds a great hall called Heorot. It is more than just a building. Heorot represents joy, community, and order, a place where people gather to feast, celebrate, and listen to stories. Laughter and music fill the hall, and for a time the kingdom knows peace. But not everyone is moved by that joy. From the darkness comes Grendel, a monster who watches the celebrations from the outside. He is filled with envy and rage, angered by the sounds of happiness he can never share. Night after night, Grendel attacks Heorot, killing warriors and dragging them into the shadows. What was once a place of light becomes a place of fear. For 12 long years, Grendel's terror haunts the kingdom, and Heorot stands empty, its joy silenced by fear. News of the terror in Denmark eventually reaches Beowulf, a young hero from the land of the Geats. He does not come for gold or reward alone. Beowulf comes seeking honor and fame, because in his world, a warrior's reputation is earned through great deeds. When he arrives, Beowulf speaks boldly. He boasts of his strength and past victories, not out of arrogance, but because boasting is an important part of warrior culture. A hero must declare who he is and what he intends to do. To prove his courage, Beowulf makes a dangerous choice. He decides to fight without weapons, trusting his strength and fate alone. If Grendel uses no weapons, Beowulf will do the same. It is a promise that sets the stage for a battle unlike any the Danes have ever seen. That night, Beowulf stays in Heorot and waits for Grendel to come. When Grendel enters the hall, he expects no resistance. He has attacked the hall many times before. As Grendel reaches for Beowulf, Beowulf grabs him, and the two begin to fight. The battle is hand to hand, with no weapons involved. Beowulf proves to be stronger. During the struggle, he tears off Grendel's arm. Badly injured, Grendel escapes from the hall and runs back to his lair where he later dies. With Grendel gone, Heorot is safe again, and the Danes enjoy a short period of peace. After Grendel is killed, the Danes believe the danger is finally over. They celebrate in Heorot, thinking peace has returned. However, the peace does not last long. That night, Grendel's mother comes to the hall. She is not attacking out of jealousy like her son did. She comes with a clear purpose: to take revenge for Grendel's death. She enters Heorot while most of the warriors are sleeping. In the attack, she kills one of King Hrothgar's most trusted noble warriors and takes Grendel's torn arm back with her as a trophy. Her actions reflect the blood feud culture of the Anglo-Saxon world. When a family member is killed, revenge is expected. Honor demands it. When morning comes, King Hrothgar is devastated. He explains to Beowulf where the monster lives, a dark, dangerous place beneath a lake, believed to be cursed and deadly. Beowulf agrees to hunt her down. He travels to the lake with Hrothgar's men and dives into the water, descending into the lair. Inside the underwater cave, Beowulf fights Grendel's mother. His sword fails at first, and the battle is difficult. Eventually, Beowulf finds a powerful weapon inside the lair and uses it to kill her. With Grendel's mother defeated, Beowulf returns to the surface, ending the cycle of revenge and finally restoring peace to the Danes. Beowulf follows Grendel's mother into her underwater lair, where the fight becomes even more difficult than his battle with Grendel. Inside the cave, Grendel's mother proves to be strong and aggressive. She attacks Beowulf and nearly defeats him. His sword is not effective, and for a moment, it seems that Beowulf might fail. As the struggle continues, Beowulf notices a giant sword hanging on the wall of the lair, a weapon made for giants rather than humans. He grabs the sword and uses it to strike Grendel's mother, killing her. The victory comes from both Beowulf's strength and the role of fate, which the Anglo-Saxons believe guided human outcomes. After the battle, Beowulf returns to the surface carrying proof of his victory. He is welcomed back as a hero, praised for ending the threat completely and restoring safety to the kingdom. After defeating Grendel's mother, Beowulf eventually returns to his own land, the kingdom of the Geats. Time passes, and about 50 years later, Beowulf becomes king. Unlike his earlier life as a warrior, his role now changes. He is no longer just a fighter, he is a leader and protector of his people. As king, Beowulf rules wisely and keeps peace in his kingdom. His strength is still respected, but his leadership is now shown through good judgment and responsibility. This part of the story shows Beowulf's growth. He begins as a hero who proves himself in battle, and he becomes a king who protects his people through wisdom and experience. Many years into Beowulf's rule as king, a new threat appears. A dragon is awakened after a piece of treasure is stolen from its hoard. In response, the dragon begins attacking nearby lands, burning homes and threatening the safety of Beowulf's people. The dragon represents fate and death, something no one, not even a great hero, can fully escape. Even though Beowulf is now old, he chooses to face the dragon himself. He believes it is his duty as king to protect his people, just as he did when he was young. During the battle, Beowulf's strength is no longer what it once was. The fight is difficult, and when things become dangerous, most of his warriors run away in fear. Only Wiglaf, A young warrior remains loyal. He stays with Beowulf and helps him fight the dragon. Together, they manage to defeat the dragon. But Beowulf is badly wounded. This final battle marks the end of Beowulf's life as a warrior and completes his journey from hero to king to protector of his people. In the final battle, the dragon is defeated, but Beowulf is badly wounded. The injuries he suffers are too severe and he knows that he is dying. Before his death, Beowulf reflects on his life. He is satisfied that he ruled his people well and protected them for as long as he could. He asks that the treasure taken from the dragon's hoard be brought to him so he can see what he has won for his people. After Beowulf dies, his people prepare a great funeral in his honor. The ceremony emphasizes his legacy, his bravery, leadership, and loyalty to his people. The poem ends by making a clear point. While Beowulf's life has ended, his fame survives death. His story continues through memory and storytelling, ensuring that his name will not be forgotten. Why Beowulf still matters. Beowulf is the foundation of English literature. It explores heroism, mortality, leadership, fate versus free will. That's why it's still studied today. Beowulf legacy and meaning. Beowulf tells the story of a hero's entire life, from a young warrior seeking honor to a wise king protecting his people, and finally to a man facing death with courage. The poem reminds us that strength fades, but leadership and responsibility matter just as much as physical power. In the world of Beowulf, death is unavoidable, but a person's reputation can outlive them. What truly survives is how others remember your actions. In the end, Beowulf shows why stories were so important to early societies. They were a way to preserve identity, values, and meaning long after a person was gone. You may now pause this video to reflect and answer on the following questions. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.